We're live. Welcome to Random Dialogues 28. It's Thursday, the 14th of November, 2024. I'm joined here nearly by 6 speakers. We're going to be here for the next hour. We've got 6 talks, up to 6 minutes each. So thank you for joining us. And if you are watching on replay, also please say hi. You can sort of give us a wave, a chat in the chat. And I'm going to go around now and just ask the speakers to introduce their talk title. And then we're going to have 3 speakers back to back, time for Q&A, and then the next 3 speakers. So can I just go around and invite you to talk? So Fritha, what's the title of your talk?
The title of my talk is The Power of Working in a Supermarket Bakery.
Thank you. And Joe?
Trying My Resilience.
And Jenniann?
I can't remember. No, it's about my working with adolescents and being a teen in the 60s and now.
Fabulous. And Pam?
Hi, mine is called Learning Second Act, Breaking Barriers, Building Futures.
Navi?
Yeah, my topic is muscular-related back pain and exercises.
Thank you. And Simon, can you hear us now? So Simon can't hear us, but we can hear him. So the title of Simon's talk, if we manage it, is Today I Might Die.
Yes, and I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Oh, hold on.
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Fine. Okay. I'm going to now invite, please, Fritha to talk about her 6 minutes. You ready?
Yeah, great.
You up to it? Okay. So if everyone else can mute, please, I'll put Fritha into a solo layout. Good luck. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Hi, everyone. My name's Fritha, and I have many roles in my life. I find myself working in a supermarket bakery at the weekends, and I have been reflecting recently on how powerful that has been for my life. So I'll just give you some context to who I am and then reflect on why it has been so great. So I am 46 on my next birthday. I am a mum to a little girl. She's 3.5. I have a partner called Olaf, and he is an incredible carpenter, and he recently built us a house in Pulborough in Sussex, and it is an incredible home. It's a triangle, and it's been on Grand Designs a couple of times. So if you love that kind of thing, then Google Grand Designs Billingshurst and check out our cool house. Before that, before I met Olaf, I have been a foster carer, and I also run a social enterprise. And my social enterprise is called Secret Projects, and we create work for women in India who have the skill to stitch. And since COVID, we've been collecting unwanted fabric and sewing supplies and turning them into products, giving them a second chance. And so after moving into our house and having a baby and continuing my work as a foster carer and continuing to run my social enterprise, I found myself in a really tricky position, because when my daughter turned 3, I wanted to get the minimum hours that we are entitled to for our children to have great nursery care. And you can get up to 22 hours per week, but you have to prove that you are earning a minimum wage of 16 hours a week. And my social enterprise is in a position where it cannot pay the people that work for it, because it's not generating enough money, and COVID was very damaging for the social enterprise. And we're working so hard to get it back to where it's going, and it is working, but it's taking time. And obviously, as a foster carer, you are given a contribution to what you do, but it's not seen as a salary, or you're not seen as actually having an income by HMRC. So I was stuck. Like, here was my gorgeous daughter who loves nursery. She's at an amazing nursery, and I didn't have enough money to, I didn't have the eligibility to get her the free hours. So I Googled working in a supermarket bakery, and a job had just been posted about an hour before I checked at the local Tesco's, which is about a 2-minute walk from my house. And I applied, and I was given an interview, and I went to the interview, and I got the job. And so I find myself every weekend for 16 hours a weekend, from 4 a.m. on a Saturday and Sunday morning till 1 p.m. alone in a bakery. And I love being on my own. I love being with people too, but it's been amazing having all this time to just think about the problems that I have, or the challenges that I face, and how I'm going to overcome them. And I find myself, whenever I start thinking about something else, I switch back and I think, hey, no, get back onto the problem, and think about it and try and come up with solutions. And also, the other amazing thing about being in the bakery is that it's very physical. So for 8 hours, you literally can't stop. And if you imagine that some of the sourdough bread is at least maybe 900 grams a piece, and there might be 9 pieces on a sheet, and that goes in the oven, and it comes out at 200 degrees. So it does focus the mind. You can't drop it. You can't burn yourself. And so the strength I've got from lifting and shifting all this bread has been absolutely amazing. It's completely changed my core. And after having a baby, you really do need to do some work around that. And so I am just amazed at the time, at the wonder of all those 16 hours a week, both physically and mentally on me. And I would say to anyone that has financial problems or a challenge like I did, just go and get yourself a job in a supermarket bakery, because the external benefit, the additional benefits of earning money in doing that have been quite extraordinary. So there we go. That's my tip of the day.
Thank you. That's brilliant. And I know that actually you are actually going, the reason you've gone first is you are going to shoot off now, because you have to get some sleep to get up early tomorrow.
Yeah, so because I work so early in the bakery, I also and I work in India so much, I do also get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's way past my bedtime. So have a lovely rest of the session, everybody, and I will be catching up once it goes onto YouTube. So thank you.
Thank you, Fritha. Bye.
Bye.
Right, Joe, are you okay to go next?
Yeah, I can go next.
Okay. Joe, let's get you into solo. Joe, here you go. Good luck.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Jo Henwood. I'm going to talk about trying my resilience. I am involved in training and coaching people in the area of resilience, amongst other things. And in 2017, I was running a training session, and a guy came up at the end who was a big, gentle fellow, and he really looked me in the eye and he said, "But does this really, really work?" And I could tell he was struggling. He'd had struggles, somebody that he knew was struggling. And I said, yes. But I hadn't, because they were tried and tested, American Psychological Association strategies, all that kind of thing. But I hadn't really tested them myself. Anyway, not long after that, my son died. My eldest son, he was 20, and we had to, obviously our life went upside down, and we had to learn to kind of live again without him. And it's about a year later, when I was asked to do some more training in that area, that I decided to kind of reflect on whether the resilience strategies had actually worked for me, thinking about that meeting with that guy. Anyway, I wrote a long note to myself, and when I was speaking to Jane about speaking at Random Dialogues, I thought, I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to share some of this with you, bearing in mind I have 5 minutes probably to do so, maybe 4 minutes. I'm going to share just a few of these. There are actually 10 with you. So one of the first things that I really used was this one, which is avoid seeing crisis as insurmountable problems. Now, when your child has died, it's quite hard to do that. But there is a reason behind that. And the first one is language. Because if we talk negatively about things, and if we talk about things being more of a disaster than it really is, we remember it being a disaster. And so when we remember what has happened in our life, it is those negative memories that we remember most, and that becomes our new narrative. So I didn't want that to happen to me. So I'd say things like, Joe, you can do this. Or favorite of mine was, Joe, you can pull back from this. And I think that has really helped me look back on these 6 years and think, you know, we survived, it was okay. Another thing, number 2, is keep things in perspective, which is essentially about kind of looking around what is the problem. Unfortunately, the problem was really big. So certainly in the early days, I just used to think about things like, well, I've got a large bottle of wine here and I like wine. And I'm only halfway through Grey's Anatomy and I like Grey's Anatomy. And I've got my health, so that's okay. So just trying to look around the problem and see some things that aren't the problem is really, really helpful. And that leads me on to gratitude, because they're similar, but really being grateful for the things that you have, which again can be hard. But I had other children and I had to care for them. And even though my heart was broken, it kind of reminded me that I did still have a heart and I could still love and I could still care for people. My husband was brilliant. He took control. He made the food. And 6 years on, we are still miraculously together. The other thing is friends. Really grateful for my friends. I've got a large friendship group. Some of them have dipped out because I can't deal with it, but a number of them are still there. So that moves me on to connections, which is number 4. So my friends were brilliant. They made a food rota. They helped me make a plaque at Clandon Wood. Thank you, Simon, to put on his grave, because you can't really do anything. They made me go out. And in the second week, they said, come round to Carrie's house. I thought, why would I want to go round to Carrie's house? But they came and got me. They took me. They plied me with alcohol. They just flitted around me and they took me home. Somebody made me play tennis after 7 weeks. I didn't want to play tennis, but I just stood at the net and I hit the ball really hard at people. And that's really improved my forehand. So having those connections is really important. The other thing is finding kind of community groups who share similar interests, who can provide support. And I joined a group called the Compassionate Friends, which are for people that have lost their children. And you go there and you don't feel, alone. And you talk about how annoying it is when you talk about your child dying and somebody compares it to their cat who's passed away and things like that. So community groups, connections, friends, really, really important. The other thing is looking after yourself. That's number 5. I have become my number 1 priority. Having spent years looking after family and children and having a career, I don't work so hard anymore. I lay in bed when I want to. I watch mind-numbing TV because it's relaxing. And also I say things that people don't like, which actually sometimes is really fun, just to see the look on their faces. So that's my 5 resilience tips. I've got a few more that work for me, but those have been really, really useful. And so if I were to ever meet that guy again, I would say emphatically, they really do work. And I would recommend, if anyone wants to boost their resilience, looking at the Road to Resilience website on the American Psychological Association's site, because you never know, you just might need it. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So I'm just going to change the banner. And I wondered if, Jenniann, you'd be okay to go next. You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, I'm fine to go next. Yeah.
Okay, good luck and joy. I'll put you into
Thanks.
solo.
So I'm just realizing how quickly that 6 minutes go. And there's me thinking I might not have enough to say for 6 minutes. I probably got enough for 60 minutes. So just very, very briefly a bit about me, because I really wanted to speak more on the topic. But I was 75 last week. And I could easily have stopped working by now, although, to be quite honest, money doesn't really allow it. But I wouldn't anyway, because I enjoy what I do and I work with young people. And I have worked with young people nearly all my life. I don't know how I got into it. It wasn't something that I aimed to do before I left school at 15, by the way. But I sort of fell into it, and I've done it now for good 50 years. So thinking about what it's like to be a teen in the 60s when I was growing up and I was a teenager, and now I'm so privileged and so grateful that I was a teenager in the 60s and I'm not a teenager now, because I think that the teens today have the toughest time. It's very, very difficult, and I don't actually think that a lot of people realize how hard it is for teens today. So I'm just going to tell you, because it might be a few funny things. So for me, growing up as a teenager, when I was 13, jukeboxes just came out and we had a whale of a time. I used to spend half my life dancing with the jukebox down in the, I was brought up on the Isle of Wight, so that was seaside town. We had the jukebox and the bumper cars and everything else. Everybody used to go out. Nobody worried about anybody being safe or not safe. We all thought we were always safe because that's how it was in the, in the late 50s, early 60s. So the other thing is, we didn't have internet, we didn't have mobile phones, we didn't have all those distractions. So peer pressure was not the same as today. It was much more only when you were with people. I mean, I guess the biggest peer pressure for me was remembering my first cigarette. I was brought up in a pub. I hated cigarettes. I hated the smoke that I had to breathe in every day. But then at 15, I was sat down on the beach, and this boy who I sort of fancied at the time insisted I try smoking a cigarette, and I did, and that was it. Hooked. I probably ended up 30 a day when I was working, yeah. But compared with the peer pressure that young people have today, it was nothing, because I suppose I was privileged because being on the Isle of Wight was very outdoor life. I spent most of my time outside. We had fun. We didn't have the same high expectations that teens have today at all. So I left home at 15, moved to London. That was another good thing about the 60s. Mobility was easy. It was easy to find somewhere to live. Rents weren't high. You could get bedsits. There were hostels. Jobs were easy to come by. If I didn't like the job I was in, I would leave and go and get another one. And it was perfectly doable. Today, that is very, very, very much harder. Finding kids are staying at home for a long time. That's changing the family dynamics, because I wasn't getting on with my mum. I want to leave home. I could do it. Today, you're not getting on with your mum. You can't leave home. You can't afford to. So you have to put up with it. So resilience is big time needed, Joe, by the way. So very, very much. And that's part of what I do with young people. I'm going to run out of time if I talk too much more about the differences between them. So what do I do? Well, I did my teacher's training in my 20s because I left at 15. I had to go back to night school to get GCSEs, and I had to do an access course to get into what it was a polytechnic then. Although I could have done a degree, I chose to do the 3 years cert ed. I left to get a teaching job, but unfortunately they didn't have teaching jobs as home economics teachers anymore, because the government decided we didn't need home economics teachers. So I went into special needs because that was, well, actually, I worked on a newspaper selling advertising space for a while. But then I worked with special needs, and I was beginning to find actually the chef, when I did the cooking, the chef course, was right. My natural bent was to work with people for change, and that's what I have always done. So I did teaching for a while. I became a youth worker. I actually trained to be a yoga teacher, and I used to run yoga classes. I don't know how I had the energy, but you do when you're younger. And then I didn't like the education system. I feel it was not changing with the times. I still think it's rubbish, but hey ho, that's my opinion. So I got out of education, teaching in schools, and I worked for social services. And I worked with young people that were either in foster care, in trouble, and with a lot of very young mums, first-time young mums that were struggling. And I started to do a lot of training and a lot of my own personal development. I was very fortunate to have a good boss who paid for me to go on. I don't know if anybody's heard of Louise Hay, but Louise Hay is a metaphysical teacher who's very much about, a bit like Joe was saying, you are what you think. So I did I did the fire walk with Anthony Robbins. I did masses of things. I went to India, lived in an ashram. I told you the 6 minutes would go. I could probably do 4 sessions on this, but I'll finish up now. I don't work for anybody else. I run my own project with Cane FM, community radio station based in Guildford. And we run a program where we use music and the radio to engage young people that have mental health and learning challenges and help them move on into independence, either back into college, into work, or we mentor them until they're ready to go into adulthood independently. And I could do another 3 sessions on the same topic. So I guess I'm supposed to be finishing now. So I'm sorry if I rushed it, but hey ho, that was it.
Thank you, Jenniann. And actually, people do come back. That's the thing, people do come back on here, or they sometimes contribute like you've been doing for the newsletter. So if you feel like you want to say more, or you feel like you haven't said it all, then please do come back and also write the letter. And I think it's quite a good practice this to kind of get it into 6 minutes. So I'm quite strict about just stopping at 6, because obviously the audience is watching. And 6 minutes, 6 speakers. So we've got a little slot now in between for the next lovely 3 speakers. If anyone has any questions, I mean, the audience, if you've got anything, if you're tuning in virtually, hello and welcome. Thank you for being with us. You might want to add a comment, a question. And obviously, if you're watching on replay, we will still come back to you and engage. I'll share your comments and questions with the speakers afterwards. So, or any of the speakers would like to ask a question to each other. Not at the moment. Simon's saying something, but I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we can.
Can you hear me now? I
Yes.
can't believe you're 75.
I'm going to invite, therefore, the next speaker. I wonder if Navi would like to come and join the stage. So Navi and I met,
Yeah, sure.
as I said, in a youth hostel about 2 years ago. I cycled down to a youth hostel and was on my own, and then met another lady, and then we all just got talking, didn't we, and had coffees and lunches, and it was all lovely. So we've kept in contact. So I said, would you like to come and speak? So I'm going to put you into solo layout. I've got your slides here, and
Sure.
good luck and enjoy. Thank you for joining us.
Yep.
Just put into solo.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, okay. So today I thought I'll just talk about something related to whatever I'm doing here. I'm basically a physiotherapist, working as a 10-year, I have experience of 10 years. And even I worked with sports team. I worked as the Indian basketball team physiotherapist. So I thought I'll just talk regarding the topic, mechanical low back pain and exercises. So I'll tell you what you mean by the mechanical low back pain. It is a back pain that's caused because of some muscle problems. Like most of the cases I have, because I'm working with the primary care network here. So I had seen so many people, they are coming with a back pain with uh, less activity, like our Fritha, right, the first author's name. So she told she's more active when she's working, but there are so many people, they are not active and they are getting so much of back pain because of the muscle related one. So I thought I'll just talk regarding that, and I'll just give some advices of what can be done when, what can be done, or what to do to prevent the low back pain. So this muscle related low back pain mainly comes because one is inactivity, and second one is like overdoing activities, like some people do over activities, strain themselves, so that can be the second cause. And so what we used to do is, like, we used to take the proper assessment, and we'll be sending some exercises to the patient. So before I'll go to that rehabilitation part, I just want to show as important thing. It's called as cauda equina. So I think Jane can show it right now, the slide. Yeah, this is the cauda equina. So you can see where the cauda equina nerve is there. So that if that nerve is getting compressed, it can damage the spinal, I mean the sensation down. It can cause so many other problems. Can you just take the next slide? So these are the questions I used to ask with the clients who has a back pain, because mainly I'll ask three questions. One is like the uh, loss of sensation, the genital during that sexual intercourse, or the second one is like inability to stop a bowel movement or leaking, and the next one, when they are walking, are you able to control the knees when walking, and the like one more question is increasing difficulty when you are trying to stop or control your flow of urine. So if any of these problems comes up, definitely my aim is to refer them to A&D to make sure the patient is safe enough. Yeah, you can just turn it off. So when when it comes to the last part, hobbies, I used to ask the clients, "What are your hobbies?" So they used to tell they don't have any hobbies because of the job. Obviously, we had to do the job in order to pay our bills. But at least if you can spend 40 minutes or 30 minutes for exercises, you can avoid the back pain related, I mean, muscular related back pain, because it will help you to improve your muscle strength, improve your flexibility. Thereby, you will be able to prevent more complicated diseases, because if you are having back pain, your mobility can get affected. If your mobility is getting affected, your daily activities can get affected. So in order to stop all these things, I would like everyone to just engage in exercises that will help you to improve your better quality of style, and in thereby we'll be able to, you don't have to go to GP or any physiotherapist in order to get better with the health. So that's what I want to tell here. So I thought I'll just do a small session today so that everyone will enjoy it. I don't want to get complicated because it's a medical field, medical terminology, and I don't want to use that. So I'll make it short and sweet. That's what I thought right now. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm sitting thinking about my back. Not moving enough. Thank you. But we look forward to hearing more from you and learning some exercise. Maybe we could do a separate Zoom or something with you sometime and do some exercising.
Course,
Thank you very much.
All right. No problem. Yeah.
Right, I'm going to just take the banner away because I'm not doing that in time otherwise. Right. Simon, would you like to have a go? So Simon's done a TEDx talk in the past, haven't you? So welcome to Random Dialogues. It's a shorter one.
Hiya. Can you hear me now?
Right. Yeah, I'm going to put you into solo layout. So you've got 6 minutes, Simon. You all right?
Okay.
To go?
Yep.
Well done.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Enjoy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Simon Ferrar. I'm the founder of Clandonwood Natural Burial Ground. It's a 31-acre nature reserve, first and foremost, and it's a sustainable landscape. So it doesn't look like a cemetery, and the benefit of having as a nature reserve, it's got this dual purpose. So it's got a purpose to exist and a reason to be looked after long into the future. It's a more gentle way and a sustainable way of caring for our dead, but as importantly, a responsible way of also caring for the living. I like to say it's easy on the eye, it's kind to our hearts, and it's gentle to our world. Now, every morning when I wake up, I give thanks to being alive but also I realised that today I might die. And I put things in place to make sure in my head and my heart that I am dead ready. I'm ready to die when it does happen. I obviously wouldn't like to happen for a good many decades just yet. 10 out of 10 people are going to die, a recent survey found. But the majority of people that I come across, that I speak to, don't want to think about it or won't talk about it. Having a business that no one wants to think about or talk about it is a challenge. And when it doesn't happen, when it's not talked about, and when somebody does die, it can cause anger, it can cause stress, it can cause arguments, and it can also, I've seen, cause family breakups because of the stress and the grief that's going on at the time when important decisions, practical decisions, and emotional decisions have to be made. To highlight the problems and perhaps some of the solutions that to be made when someone does die, I have had 3 of my own funerals. I invited people to come to my funeral. The last one was in May this year. And this year I had, instead of having a coffin, I had a shroud. And for 25 minutes, I stood at the front of our beautiful glass pavilion and told people why I was doing it. Most people these days only go to cremation. So a lot of people have never been to a burial. A lot of people have never been to a natural burial ground. So they don't know what happens and what the difference is. So I went through the decisions that I had made for my body to get there at Clandon Wood for my funeral. The decisions I'd made, the discussions I'd had with my family and my funeral director as to how my body was treated, when and where I died. So my decision was to die at home, ideally, and so that my family could come and see me and say goodbye in familiar surroundings. I'd spoken to a funeral director and spoken to him and said, if I die at home, I'd like you to come and collect my body after a day or so, when my wife would say the family were ready. And then I would like you to get me ready for burial in a shroud, along with some of my family members, if that's what they wanted to do, and bring me down in a plain car down to Clandon Wood for my funeral. Now, I also went through the options of if I hadn't died at home, if I died in hospital, or if I died in a care home or a hospice. And it was similar, but I wanted my body collected by my funeral director with the help of my family, if that's what they wanted to do, and take me home again for a day or so, so that my family could come and say goodbye. And then my body would be brought back down to Clandon Wood. We then had a procession to graveside, which was an important part of any ceremony now I have at Clandon Wood. Even if someone's having an ash interment or a full burial, the funeral ritual is very important. It's a time to walk and talk, or just contemplate in silence on the final journey to graveside. That funeral ritual, if people don't have that ritual, or they're deprived of it because of time, because they haven't been invited to the funeral, or they couldn't get there, whatever it is, grief can carry on through the years, and sometimes till the day people die, if they haven't had time to grieve. So my message is, try and get dead ready. Get ready to realize that you are mortal. One day you might die. It might be today, it might be tomorrow. Have those conversations with your family, with your friends. Let them know what you want and how you want your body to be treated when you die. I'm dead ready in my head and my heart. Are you? Thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. Okay. Now, Pam, our sixth speaker.
Thank you very much indeed, Jane. Good evening, everyone. I am...
There you go. Sorry, I'm just going to put you in solo layer. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pam Williams. I'm going to be talking to you this evening about learning second act, breaking barriers and building futures. I'm an executive and a career coach, and I love working with women in midlife, mid-career and beyond to help them stay in employment or return to work. I had quite a shaky start when I was in what I would call learning's first act. I was at school. I loved studying. I loved learning, but I didn't happen to like my particular school. And so at 15, nearly 16, I decided I would leave school. And a friend told me about an intensive secretarial course at our local college. And I thought this would be a great stopgap for me whilst I tried to decide what I wanted to do next. And I never, ever wanted to be a secretary. As it happened, unfortunately, just before I took my finals, my elderly father died. And as my mother had already passed away when I was a toddler, I really needed to get out to work to earn a living. The first barrier I encountered was the college didn't want me to take my exams. They were afraid that I was going to fail them. But I convinced them that my father would have been furious if I wasn't allowed to continue. And eventually they gave way and I passed all of my exams, finished college on the Friday and started my first role as a junior secretary on the Monday. I was very fortunate that after a short period of time, I applied for a job in HR or personnel as it was then. And with the exuberance of youth and a bit of cheek, the role I applied for was 3 grades above what I was currently on. And I hadn't got the experience or the qualifications to do the role. But as it was, they couldn't fill the position. And that gave me the opportunity to actually join HR, but in a junior capacity. Not long afterwards, I moved into local government, and that was a real culture shock for me, going from a fast-paced environment to a much more slower, structured organisation. But I was very fortunate there because I was given the opportunity to go back to education and get my first HR qualifications. And I was promoted to senior HR advisor. There followed then a very, very long career break to bring up my children. And I did a great deal of voluntary work during that time, and it only became a reality to me later on that transferable skills are built up whilst you're doing this voluntary work, which help you later on in life. And it's something that I try to remind women that I am coaching, that nothing is wasted. It took me 2 years to get back into a job when I decided to return to the workforce. And this was when my learning second act happened, because I worked for an incredible woman who was absolutely insistent that I needed to pick up my qualifications and go back to college. So some 20 years after I'd first started, I got my HR qualifications. That opened the door then for me to progress my career. And I worked for so many different organizations in space and satellite technology, in computer games, telecommunications, and life sciences. And along the way, through the support of allies and mentors and sponsors, I went into higher education. I got an MBA. I got a master's in coaching and mentoring practice. And what I was learning one day, I was teaching leadership and managers the next day. I had the opportunity to travel all around Europe and the States, putting my learning and education into practice. And my career went from an HR manager through ups and downs and sideways moves until eventually I was the Chief People Officer. In 2020, I had a devastating loss. My daughter passed away. And after a period of healing and finding a new purpose in life, I decided that I wanted to set up my own coaching business. I wanted to take my learning and my life's experiences to help other women create their own futures, to break barriers for themselves, and to flourish and to be all they can possibly be. And that has been the most rewarding thing, I would say, of the last few years. And who knows, perhaps learning for me might even have a third act. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, everyone want to unmute? I think we've all had a go. I think we've all done our talks. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pam, for all of you for coming and sharing and being vulnerable and courageous to give this a go. I know not all of us have spoken before like this. I know some of us are more seasoned speakers, but you know, this is shared onto different platforms afterwards. I put it into the newsletters and people really do connect with what you're saying, and they come back later on and sort of, it might not be now today that they're watching, but it really does impact people, and they're really grateful when I speak to them for your sharing your stories. I can think of all of you tonight, someone who I'd like to share this talk with. So perhaps you're the same, perhaps you know someone you can think, oh, I'd really like to share that part of the talk. And what I'll do in the YouTube is I'll put it into chapters so that you can see what time you spoke, or the person spoken to say, hey, check in at this time and watch this bit. And who knows, they might end up watching all of Random Dialogues 28. So I think we've got a comment to look at. I've just got someone maybe tuning in. John Ballard's been watching. Thank you, John. So John, some of you might know John Ballard. I've known John for a few years, and we do Business Buzz together in Guildford. And he's just said, wonderful speakers, one and all. And he's a lovely supportive. Thank you, John. And obviously we've got the Random Dialogues newsletter that goes out as well each month. So I know some of you are already contributing to that newsletter. So please do continue. And if you're watching and you would like to share something too, so what's a topic, issue or subject that you feel passionate about and would like to share, please get in touch. So has anyone got any questions for each other or any closing thoughts? It's quite hard, I think, when people have been speaking, because we're often quite nervous and anxious about our own talk. Then, but I'm sure afterwards we'll have some of a chat. So yes, Jenniann.
I'd just like to say, you know, this is my first time of joining Jane with the Random Dialogues, and how really interesting and so much I can relate to some of you, particularly the two ladies talking tonight, but also. And Simon, I think that's amazing you're doing what you're doing, because you're quite right. Death is not something that people like talking about. I do. And in fact, I have considered being buried at Clarendon, but haven't made a final decision yet. But no, but you're all, you know, really fascinating. And I'd love to talk to you all again.
Love to. Thank you.
My son is buried at Clarendon.
Is he?
And actually, Rory died on the Tuesday, and on the Thursday, I asked Simon to come round to my house and talk to me about death and burial. And as you can gather from his talk today, he was very good at that. The large thing of toilet roll on the table between us that we got through in about an hour. But it's amazing, actually, you know, the things that are possible that you don't know about. And the only reason why I knew that things were possible over and above the traditional was because I had been to a few networking events actually at Clarendon Wood, which is how I knew Simon. And it, you know, the ceremony we had for Rory was amazing. The funeral directors were amazing. He was buried in something called a bella couche. Who's heard of a bella couche? It's called, you know, Pretty Sleep or something like that. In fact, this is the top of Rory's bella couche. I didn't even know that the top came off that we have in the study. So,
it's a felt. Basically a felt envelope.
It's like a felt sleeping bag.
It is, yeah. And they're very comfortable. I've actually been in one.
It looked delightful. And we have this, and it's a sort of bit of a rug, and it's beautifully embroidered. Anyway, this isn't just about death. This is about life. But it's actually fascinating when you open your mind to it, I think.
Thank you,
and it becomes less scary.
No, you're right. And once people have had that conversation, they actually say to me, well, that conversation has changed my life because it opens so many different doors.
Simon, my daughter is also buried at Clarendon. And we had her repatriated from the States. I think it was one of the first live broadcasts you did during COVID. And we had people from all around the world join in. But it's such a beautiful and happy place.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's a joyful place, believe it or not, to be.
Yes. And my dad is also buried there. So there was a bit of a theme tonight. It's always, but every time we do random dialogues, it's accidental. It's not intentional, but every time we do it, there's always like this theme, and this is just the theme tonight. It's just, and I hope you all can all, connect again and sort of meet again.
What was your daughter's name, Van?
Sharon. It was Sharon Sang. Yes.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So sorry that there's another person, but people die all the time, Simon, I guess, don't they?
They do. They do. And they're not expecting it half the time.
No.
That's the point. Yeah.
No,
and it doesn't matter how old you are. A lot of people say to me, I'm really going to get it sorted out. I'm not planning on dying yet, but
what do they know?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when, obviously, you can't relate to your grief in that way, but I've lost people, and every time I think I get a bit better at grieving, because it's such a shock the first time, and then you kind of, like you've said, Joe, there's some tools you don't know. Not everyone has those tools, and I knew about some tools when people died, and it did really help. But it's also allowing yourself to obviously grieve and just go for it and go, I'm in it, and this is just there's nothing I want right now. I just want to grieve. But actually, when you're ready, you can then draw on some tools and know that you're going to never forget that person, but you will. There are days where you can choose, I guess, the grief or not grief. Sometimes it's that it's having that, isn't it? Knowing how to cope sometimes. So
yeah.
So thank you everybody for being here, and I'm so sorry for everyone's losses, and thank you for sharing this evening in this space, and thank you for watching. If you're watching, and join us in January 15th for Random Dialogues 29. And thank you. And I will sign off now. So those of you in the studio, if you want to stay and chat, I'll be here for a few more minutes. I'll end the stream. So we might want to give a wave.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching.